Hello, my powerful Minnow friends. I'm your powerful leader, Menopause Taylor. And today I want to discuss the power you have as a menopausal woman. Now, that may not sound very important, but stay tuned. I'll have you looking at menopause in an entirely different way by the end of this video. This is the last video in our unit on the principles, problems, and powers of menopause management. We started this unit by detailing the problems of menopause management. The problems encompassed videos 186 to 189. In video 186, I addressed the happily ever after that is supposed to be your menopause. 187 was about your greatest enemies of menopause. 188 was about how to create your birth plan for menopause. And 189 addressed the fact that menopause is not a quick fix phenomenon. But then I gave you 3 videos on the principles of menopause management. Video 190 was the smorgasbord of options for menopause. It was followed by video 191 on the differences between pharmaceutical drugs and dietary supplements. And finally, video 192 on the ramifications on bioidentical hormones from different sources. Video 193 switched gears to address the role you play in the status of menopause in the world today. And last week in video 194, I delineated the 14 red flags of menopause mismanagement by giving you all the things you need to walk away from. So you've seen that while there are problematic aspects of menopause, there are also principles that can make your management a whole lot easier. And more important than that, there are things you can do to make the situation better for all women. So today we're going to talk about that. Most women focus on the negative aspects of menopause, but I am a big believer in turning your negatives into positives. Whenever I have a negative turn of events in my life, I examine the situation and find ways to turn my negatives into positives. Here's a story about one of those times. My father was in the military, and military families move around a lot. So I was born in Germany, and when I was 5 and 6 years old, my family lived in Taipei, Taiwan. And during those formative years in my life, I was cross-eyed. These are the glasses I wore when I was 5. They're old, just like me. Of course, glasses do nothing to correct crossed eyes. Crossed eyes are merely a problem with the muscles that control your eyes. So glasses or not, the world is a bit different for cross-eyed kids. For one thing, nothing is one thing. Everything is 2 things. You see double. And the only way you don't see double is to ignore the information coming into one of your 2 eyes at all times. And that makes one eye weak. And when you use only one eye, you have no depth perception. So the world is flat with 2 of everything. Overall, everything looks very crowded because there's nothing in front of or behind anything else. It's all just right there in your face, but double. But despite the overstimulation it creates, it makes your brain strong because it has to filter in order to make sense of things. So as a little kid with my crossed eyes, my brain was always filtering. But of course, I'd never seen the world any other way. I'd been cross-eyed since birth. But I had figured out along the way that everybody else didn't see 2 of everything the way I did. And apparently my parents could tell that I was aware of my different way of seeing the world, and they wanted to have my crossed eyes corrected. So when I was still 5, my father took me to the military hospital in Okinawa, Japan for eye surgery to correct my vision. They didn't have the necessary services in Taiwan. And I remember finding the whole experience so strange. I mean, there were strange people and strange odors and strange furniture. It was a hospital, and I'd never been in a hospital. But I had the surgery, and then my father and I flew back to Taiwan. And I still had patches on both my eyes for a few days after returning home. But let me tell you, when those patches came off, I just couldn't believe my eyes. Literally, it was like magic. For the first time in my life, I saw that the world had depth and nothing was double anymore. And that is what made me want to be a surgeon. That's all I ever wanted to be. I never wavered. I never got off track. And nothing was going to stop me. I had my eye on the ball, as they say. So I made perfect grades. I got a scholarship to the best college, which for me was Rice University. I went to my preferred medical school. I had my choice of residency programs, and I achieved all that I ever dreamed of achieving. I practiced in the Texas Medical Center, which is the largest medical center in the world. And I delivered up to 30 babies a month, operated every day, spent quality time with my patients, and did for others what my eye surgeons had done for me. I worked very hard, and I was available 24 hours a day, and I had a booming practice. It was truly my dream life. I loved every single minute of it. And then in 2001, I was diagnosed with a severe form of arthritis that interfered with my ability to continue performing the surgical procedures and manual requirements of my profession. It was so bad that I had to sell my practice and retire. And the prognosis was that I would be an invalid in a wheelchair. At that point, not only did I have a painful, crippling disease with which to contend, I also had lost everything I had ever known and loved. Now, most people in my situation would have gone home, become immobile, become addicted to narcotic pain medicines, gained a bunch of weight, and developed a whole host of other diseases associated with weight gain and immobility. But you see, this is where turning your negatives into positives comes into play. Instead of becoming immobile because of pain, I decided to create my own exercise to accommodate my arthritis and stay as active as I could. I also decided to move to various other countries while I was still able to do so. My disease was and is chronic and progressive. Things were going to get worse, not better. So I left the United States, and I lived in Canada, Australia, France, Spain, Monaco, Malaysia, South Africa, and Argentina. I stayed for at least 1 year in each of those places. And along the way, I studied languages, integrated into different cultures, and essentially lived a different kind of dream life. And I also learned how to manage my arthritis in such a way that it made me healthier and better off in some ways. I had taken the worst thing that had ever happened to me and made it one of the best things that had ever happened to me. Not only that, because I had proven to myself that I could turn my negatives into positives, I decided to provide you with this education so that you could do the same. That constituted turning my negative into a double positive. And given my young life with crossed eyes during which everything was double, it just seems so fortuitous that I'm here now telling you about how things have really come full circle. All because of my crossed eyes and arthritis combined with your menopause. So this video is all about turning your negatives into positives. And here's the catch. When you turn your negatives into positives, It gives you power. It actually makes you more powerful than you would have been if things had stayed the same. Do you know how many more women I can help here on YouTube and on my radio broadcast and with my book and through one-on-one consultations than I could have ever helped in the Texas Medical Center? The difference is staggering. Do you realize that if the billions of menopausal women band together and inform the world about our power, we can change the futures of women everywhere? If instead of staying silent and wallowing in our sorrow about becoming menopausal, we proudly shout about it from the mountaintops and in our cities, the world would wake up. The reason the plight of menopausal women is so problematic today is because we have not used our power to change things. Ladies, we are the fastest growing sector of the population worldwide. We are the most powerful group on earth. Why, oh why are we not using that power to make things better for ourselves? And by making things better for ourselves, we make things better for everybody. You know how the education of girls improves the entire society in underdeveloped nations? Well, the same is true of menopause. Educating women about menopause improves everything for everyone. I call it Menopower. I want you to know you have it, and I want you to know how to use it to turn your negatives into positives. If we band together, there's no way things won't get better. I guess you could call it a Meno revolution, but it would be a peaceful one. And it all starts with education. That leads to elevating your expectations, which leads to demanding more from professionals. And while that may sound like a war, it wouldn't be. Professionals love well-educated patients who know facts and learned them from a credible source rather than Dr. Google. And that leads to enabling you to get what you want for managing your menopause your way, which leads to a better quality of life for you, your family, and everyone with whom you interact. And since there is no one on earth who doesn't have at least one menopausal woman in his or her life, it makes life better for everyone. Do you see the layers of benefits? Do you see how this comes full circle? Don't you see how this is so similar to how my uncrossed eyes made me want to become a surgeon, and when my arthritis made that impossible to do any longer, it opened up the opportunity for me to give you Menopower? So now I'm handing the baton to you. Take this education and start a movement with it. When a disenfranchised group speaks up as a whole, people listen. That's what you've seen with the Me Too movement. Not one of those women would have chosen to be sexually abused, but they've turned their negatives into positives and made things better for women everywhere, forever. You are part of the largest group of women on earth, the menopausal women. You didn't choose to become menopausal, but you are. And you've learned from me that you can make it wonderful. So it's your turn to do what you can to make it better for women everywhere and forever. Please, ladies, let's start a Meno revolution in which everybody wins. I don't often get political or make campaign speeches, but sometimes it's appropriate, and I can't think of a more appropriate time or a better cause than ours. So this is where I'll leave you today. I'll be back in a week to begin our long unit on osteoporosis. Feel free to schedule consultations at menopausetailor.me. Feel free to subscribe and feel free to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Bye.